45 years ago, I think, and they they were doing stuff for the sock mills that were in the area.
Mm-hmm.
That business had kind of dried up, and they had moved a few buildings. That business kind of dried up, and they ended up with an established business over here, but I guess through the ups and downs through the economy, it kind of slowed off here. And then 2014, we come in and bought Dixie Machine, and at the time it had one CNC lathe and primarily manual machines, manual machinists, and we went from there and grew to
what you see out there now.
Yeah, which I don't know how many CNCs we have now, but we have several. And we've just been kind of going from there.
So that was my next question. So you had a lathe, you said, here when you first purchased the company. Yes. Do you remember what your first CNC machine tool was, aside from that?
The first thing that I bought from mm-hmm. that, I bought a CNC, like here, the next thing we bought a CNC mill next. Mm-hmm. And then we followed with a second CNC lathe. And then I think after that we bought 2 or 3 more mills and another lathe, and then it just kept going from there. We keep buying. To start with, we were trying, as we started the business. Obviously, we didn't have, from this location, we didn't have enough. We weren't generating enough income to buy, $200,000 CNC machine, mm-hmm. At the time. So, we were looking at lower cost ownership stuff, but it wasn't really the lowest cost of ownership. It was, hey, what can we get in here that'll do the job that's cheap, and that really that's how we progressed through that, and in hindsight, we probably should have bought a better machine, and we should have bought a better machine. We would have had a little bit better service out of it, right? Mm-hmm. But we did what we had to do to get by.
So you new versus used, and expensive versus cheap.
Yeah. So that was a thing. Like, so if you plan on being in business for a while, you can buy a well-built machine. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a difference between a well-built machine and a cheap machine.
There is.
And the price difference doesn't quite equate to, so you can go buy $75,000 meal. Mm-hmm. Well, that $75,000 meal might not make a tight tolerance part, and it might only last 3 years and be able to still maintain any kind of tolerance. Whereas a machine that's built right may last you 15 years, and you can do it. You can run it day in, day out, and you don't have to worry about that. You go to set up a tight tolerance part, you don't have to do anything special.
Right.
Where a used machine, same problem. You're buying it hoping that it works like a new one, mm-hmm. but it's not going to. And we bought several used machines, mm-hmm. and like they did the job that we needed them to do for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like that period of time may have been 2 years, it may have been a year, it may have been 3 years, but it wasn't. You know, we were doing our own rigging, so you know it was on us to be able to bring it in, bring it out, and we went with that concept because we didn't have the cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, instead of borrowing a bunch of money to build the business up, we decided we'd do it the other way and just try to make it work. A lot harder that way.
Right. So the expensive machine, how long would you say they last?
So, I mean,
in your experience.
So you step up another level.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as you service the machine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the lathe that was here existing,
mm-hmm.
it was a good machine. You know, that brand's no longer around, but we ran that machine for, you know, from the time that it was new until it ran about 21, 22 years before we took it out of service. Now, the difference is it didn't run as fast as a new machine because it didn't have those the technology improvements on the servo motors and stuff. So our rapids weren't as fast. Everything had a little bit of time in it.
Yeah.
So to change from that to something that, you know, like on a lathe had a servo turret,
right?
You know, it would change tools faster, which meant you could get more done in the same period of time. It also had faster rapids, so you could get more done in the same time. Your cut speed, you know, that's dictated off your tool. So as long as your machine could handle it, you know, you were still cutting the same. But the stuff in the middle, the rapids and the tool changes, you know, those, if you could get those to happen faster, then you had a chance of making more money.
Right.
So first thing I look for is, one, I want to be able to trust who I'm buying it from, because you're spending a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And as a small shop, I mean, you know, if you buy a new bar fed lathe with the sub spindle and the turret, and you're spending a lot of money.
Right.
You want to be able to trust. From my standpoint, I want to, you know, I'm not saying everybody wants to, but I want to be able to trust who I'm buying it from.
Right.
And I want to be able to, when I say trust, you know, one, hey, pricing's fair. That's, you know, hey, you always want to get something as cheap as you can, but when it's all said and done, you want to be able to rely on, if something goes wrong, you want to be able to rely on that company, which, you know, that's why I'm buying from Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, Jupiter is a service company at heart, right?
Yeah.
They're a service company that sells CNC machines.
Right.
And so if they're, you know, if I crash a machine, I've done some damage, I can call and they'll have somebody in here. If I have a little small problem, I mean, they're going to pay attention and do everything they can to get me back running. You know, whatever it is, they're trying to work with me to make sure that I stay running. Because if I'm not running, I'm not making, you know,
right.
If the machine's not running, it's not making any money. Well, it still costs the same whether it's running or not. You definitely want it running so it'll pay for itself.
Right. I think when I researched Jupiter as a company, one of the things that I liked the most that I read was how, like you said, they started out a service company.
That's right.
And then we started selling CNC machines, started manufacturing them. But somewhere in the literature it says they already knew what worked and what didn't. So why not? Why not start manufacturing that machine?
And that's right. And that's the difference. I mean, so am I saying they have the cheap, the cheapest machines? No. What am I saying? They have the best value for the buck? I think that, and I truly believe that. But I also want to be able to have them. I want to be able, if something goes wrong, to be able to rely on somebody to help me.
Right.
And I feel confident that any issue I have, whether it be big, small, whatever, like they immediately jump on it and they do what they can to try to help me out.
Right.
And I haven't, everything that I've been through, like, so I will, late in the afternoon, I'll call, hey, something went wrong. End of the day, I'll call and say, hey, this happened. What do I need to do? And they'll either have somebody headed on the way, or they'll have, hey, all you got to do is this. They'll tell me that.
Right.
And that means a lot.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about. Hey, the longer you can keep it up, if any new machine you buy, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
It doesn't, any piece of equipment you buy, it doesn't matter what it is. You go buy a new vehicle, same deal. If you use it, something's going to happen. Something's going to wear out, something's going to break. It doesn't. That's just part of it. If you take the new car, you drive down the road, you hit a pothole, you knock your front end out of alignment, and you start wearing your tires. Well, whose fault is that, right? Well, what you need is somebody to be able to fix it. If you can in that case you can still drive the car. You're just it's just wearing your tires out. But in the case of, hey, I've got one car and somebody just rear-ended me and I can't drive it anymore. You want that fixed as soon as possible. You'd like somebody to jump on it. If somebody says, hey, it's going to be 2 months before you can get this, you're probably not going to be very happy about it, because you've got all this money tied up in this car and you're making these car payments. So you're sitting here making a car payment this month and you don't have a car.
Right.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. My dad has a construction company, and you go buy a brand new piece of equipment and you're out using it. You're gonna bust a hydraulic hose. You're gonna do. Stuff's gonna happen. But what I want to be able to do is be able to say, hey, can I get a part to fix this?
Right.
And can you help? Is there anything you can do to help me get this back together? And somebody will be here. If you need them, they're here.
Good.
And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody to trust.
Right. And that means everything. And I think as a consumer, I've never bought a CNC machine tool, but I don't mind paying a higher cost for something that works well.
Right. But I mean, it's not that you're paying. I mean, in reality, you're not paying if I went out and quoted 10 machines, they're all relative. Like there's a low end machine that's gonna be cheaper, right? I'm not gonna name any names, but they're gonna be cheaper up front, which that's fine. But if you go look at the linear rails, they're half the size. The motors a lot smaller. The ball screws, so they're not. Like there's a big difference if you want to run something precise and you want to run every day. Like it's just going to last longer.
Yeah.
Well, in our case, we want that. We want it to last longer. We want it to run every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all great, but when something happens, we want to be able to service it.
Right.
And if I call up, I feel confident that I'm gonna get my whatever I need is gonna get took care of. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I keep going back to Jupiter.
Good, thank you. So let me ask. I'm going to go ahead and ask you this question then. What can we do differently as a company? What would you like to see us do differently? Is there anything we could be doing differently?
Well, yeah, you could give me free machines.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'll take free machines.
Okay.
But I mean, as a whole, I've been very pleased.
Good.
So everything has always been up front.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I receive a quote, it lists out everything that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And we work through there to make sure that I'm getting everything that I need. So from that standpoint, no problem. Then the thing gets so once we get to that point, like now I purchased the machine. Well, as soon as it comes in, there's somebody here to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
They set it up. They go through everything. They'll go through everything in there. Make sure that we fully understand the machine before they leave.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I've had it to where, they would spend an extra day here after they're finished, just making sure that our company could utilize this machine to its potential.
Good.
Well, that means a lot.
Yeah.
But then, if I had, I start running and I have a small issue, I call immediately. They're trying, from that point, it's like they're on a clock. They're trying to figure out how to make it. They're trying to figure out how to get me an answer and get me back running.
Right.
And that is, in the end, that makes more money.
Right. Right.
And that's what we're here for. I mean, as a business owner, you can't survive if you're not trying to make money.
Right.
Well, the little stuff is, like pricing of parts is so competitive. There's not a lot of margin in there. Right. So any little thing you can do to save yourself some money is what you're looking for.
An accumulation of the little things. We were actually
that's
just
right.
talking about that the other day in a training, distributor training.
And that is that's exactly what it amounts to.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to run, I'm not sitting down for 3 weeks or 2 months. I'm running this machine. That helps me. The hardest part about buying a machine
Mm-hmm.
is knowing that you're going to be able to afford the machine.
Mm-hmm.
That was to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like so I have a machine. If it's sitting there, it doesn't make any money. So I've got to figure out how to fill that machine up with parts. And that's the hardest part of it. If you've got parts, if you got a source to get parts, then there's no reason not to buy a machine.
Right.
If you don't have a source to get parts and you're going to buy a machine and try to start from scratch there, that's probably the wrong option. I mean, you're going to put, machines are not cheap.
Right.
I mean, when we started out, I was talking about, we bought cheap machines, but even cheap machines were expensive,
Right, right.
So you want to be able to make sure that you can generate enough revenue if you can generate enough revenue, then it's really a no-brainer. You know, hey, you get you something good and run with it.
But I don't.
So they do. If you have them, if you can run them, then if you can get work for them, then they'll typically pay themselves off in about 2 years.
And
If you've got work.
If you got work,
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How hard is it?
How hard is it to get work?
Yeah.
Oh, getting work's hard. You know, that's the hardest part. It's all about building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if I go to a new customer as an established company, like I might have to go to that customer every month for a year before they give me the first piece that I can quote. And after I quote it, I'm still not going to get it. I mean, I could be the cheapest, I could be all sorts of, I'm still not going to get it, but it builds a little bit more trust to them. And then, you know, maybe by a year and a half, they've got enough trust in me to allow me to take a part.
Right.
And from that, then, you know, then it'll grow from there. But it takes time, and that's really what it amounts to.
But what's been your favorite machine so far?
So,
aside from that saw I saw out there, because I like that.
well, I like the saw as well, but that's so truly my favorite machine that I currently have is about a year and a few months ago. I bought a CNC lathe with a bar feeder, sub spindle, a y-axis, and you know, live tooling.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been my favorite machine so far.
Good.
And it is really, I mean, it's a very rigid machine, but you know, it's the capabilities are nice, and we run it lights out. So it tends to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can run it lights out. Therefore, you know, it's been a very, very good machine for us.
Good. So how has your business changed since you bought your first CNC machine? I didn't realize that Dixie Machine Shop was so big. You guys are huge.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, we're still we're
a lot going on out there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of parts moving through.
Right. June Jam. You going to the June Jam?
So probably not.
Yeah.
I went to the June Jam a lot when I was younger,
yeah.
before it kind of went away, and so I'm probably not going to pull that one off this year.